Welcome to this book summary of Mein Kampf, the controversial autobiography and political manifesto by Adolf Hitler. Now, I know this is a heavy topic, but stick with me. It's important to understand how Hitler's ideas were formed and how they led to one of the darkest periods in human history. So, let's dive into the book. Mein Kampf starts with Hitler's personal history. Born in a small Austrian town called Braunau am Inn in 1889, Hitler had a pretty normal childhood. At first, his father, a strict customs officer, wanted him to follow in his footsteps and become a civil servant, but young Adolf had other ideas. He wanted to be an artist. Spoiler alert, that didn't go so well. After his parents died, Hitler moved to Vienna and applied to art school. However, he was rejected multiple times. The rejection hit him hard, and it marked a major turning point in his life. During his time in Vienna, Hitler's worldview started to change. He was exposed to a lot of political literature, and that's where he first encountered the rising tide of anti-Semitic ideas that was circulating in the city. And while he didn't initially buy into those views, his frustration and anger over his failures gradually led him to adopt them. According to Hitler, this was the period when he saw the truth about Jews and other groups he later blamed for Germany's problems. Now, fast forward a few years to World War I. Hitler volunteered to fight for Germany, and the experience of war became another critical moment in his life. He saw himself as a devoted soldier, loyal to his country, but was deeply disturbed when Germany lost the war. In Mein Kampf, Hitler spends a lot of time blaming this defeat on what he called the November criminals-politicians who, according to him, betrayed Germany by signing the Treaty of Versailles. And who did Hitler blame for this betrayal? You guessed it, the Jews and communists. This was when his political ideas really started to take shape. After the war, Hitler became involved with the small German Workers' Party, which later transformed into the Nazi Party. In the book, Hitler talks a lot about his vision for the future of Germany, a vision that involved a strong, authoritarian government and a racially pure German state. He outlines the Nazi ideology, which was based on the belief that the Aryan race, people of Germanic descent with blonde hair and blue eyes, was superior to all other races. According to Hitler, Aryans were responsible for all of humanity's great achievements, while other races, especially Jews, were seen as even more extreme. Hitler wasn't content with just promoting racial purity in Germany. He wanted to expand the German Empire by conquering Eastern Europe, especially Poland and Russia, to create what he called Lebensraum, or living space for the German people. He had no qualms about forcing out or even eliminating the people who lived there, whom he saw as inferior. Hitler also goes into detail about how he wanted to build the Nazi state. In his view, the education system should teach children from a young age about racial purity, and citizens should be loyal to the Nazi Party above all else. Only Aryans should be considered full citizens of Germany, while non-Aryans could live in the country but would have no political rights. Basically, Hitler envisioned a Germany where race determined everything, who had power, who could be a citizen, and who had the right to live. In the second volume of Mein Kampf, Hitler lays out his strategy for achieving this vision. Propaganda and militarization were key to his plan. He was a big believer in controlling the narrative through media and public speeches, and he wanted to build up Germany's military strength so the country could go to war and expand its territory. It's chilling to read how he detailed these plans years before World War II even began. Now, it's important to pause here and critically reflect on Mein Kampf. First of all, Hitler's ideas about race are not only scientifically false but incredibly dangerous. His belief in Aryan superiority and his hatred of Jews led directly to the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, were systematically murdered. Today, Mein Kampf is banned or restricted in many countries because of its hate-filled content. And while it's necessary to understand this book from a historical perspective, it's also important to reject the dangerous ideology. In 1923, Hitler was arrested and imprisoned in Landsberg prison. Rather than seeing it as a setback, he used this time to reflect on his political failures and lay out his vision for Germany. In his cell, Hitler began writing Mein Kampf, viewing his imprisonment as a platform to spread his ideas. Far from broken, he saw himself as a martyr for his cause, stating, "When I look back at the years in prison, I realize they were the most instructive of my life." Prison conditions were lenient, Hitler had access to visitors and books, and he dictated much of the book to his associate, Rudolf Hess. During this time, his ideas on race and politics expanded, particularly his disdain for the Weimar Republic and his belief that Germany needed authoritarian leadership. He wrote, "A state that refuses to provide for its own defense must be considered as already lost." In Mein Kampf, Hitler laid out his idea of a racially pure state and the concept of Lebensraum, Germany's need for more living space, particularly in Eastern Europe. He argued that Aryans were superior and destined to rule, while other races, especially Jews and Slavs, were seen as enemies. Expansion into Poland and Russia was not just political, but a racial imperative. The foreign policy of a folkish state must safeguard the existence of the race. Hitler also emphasized the power of propaganda, stating, "The broad masses of a population are more susceptible to the appeal of rhetoric than to any other force." This belief in controlling public opinion was central to his strategy as he rose to power. Mein Kampf was initially met with mixed reactions, but as Hitler's power grew, so did the book's influence. It became a bestseller in Nazi Germany and a key text for Nazi Party members. Hitler used it to justify his expansionist policies, anti-Semitism, and the militarization of society. As his control over Germany solidified, Mein Kampf shaped not only his followers but also the future atrocities of the Holocaust and World War II. In Mein Kampf, Hitler emphasized the need for military strength to expand Germany's borders. The Nazi regime put this into action, turning Germany into a war machine. From youth programs like the Hitler Youth to military parades, society was prepared for conflict. For Hitler, war was essential for the survival of the Aryan race, and this belief became the core of Nazi militarization. Hitler's final words in Mein Kampf were a call to arms. Confident in his vision, he expressed faith in the Nazi Party's ability to restore Germany's greatness. The book's dark, oppressive tone foreshadowed the authoritarian regime Hitler would establish, and the devastating consequences of his radical ideology. Mein Kampf was not just a manifesto, it was the blueprint for one of history's most destructive almost 100 years ago. Its influence is still felt today. Far-right and neo-Nazi groups sometimes point to Hitler's writings to justify their beliefs. That's why it's so crucial to learn from history, so we can recognize these dangerous ideas and prevent them from gaining traction again. So, what's the takeaway from Mein Kampf? It's a dark, disturbing glimpse into the mind of one of history's most notorious dictators. But by understanding how Hitler's ideas were formed, we can better understand how to combat hatred and prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. Thanks for watching. If you found this summary insightful, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about how Hitler's personal failures shaped his political ideas? Stay curious and critical.